Previously on the What the Hell Is Next podcast.
If I do anything you want me to do, maybe another time, maybe another life, you will be my wife and we'll get it right.
Like we have been accustomed and have been tailored and groomed, if you will. Oh, are those trigger words? They might be trigger words. Lord, I done got banned already. We have been accustomed and conditioned is the word. Not groomed. Conditioned is the word. You know, what we didn't do, we're very good at that. But we never look at our accomplishments and say, you know what, I accomplished that. It's either I accomplished that, but I could have done it better. You know, why couldn't it just be, I accomplished that, period. It's accomplished. I did that. I made it, right? Everything had to be in place. There's a perception of perfection, of a way that it should look. And so in prayer, God challenged me and said, why are you trying to fix something that's natural? Are you saying that your natural state is not good enough? So the fact that I never really accepted the natural state of who I am, I couldn't embrace the natural state of my hair. Was it easy? Absolutely not. And that was like 10 years ago? 9 years ago. It was 2017. 9 years ago. It was a long time. 9, 10, anywho. I ain't did nothing. 9, 10 years, you do the math. Do the math. You're right. So what he did was he forced me to stand in the mirror, bucky naked, and literally look at myself without judgment, without trying to fix myself, without trying to point out all of my flaws, what could be corrected. I literally had to stand there and embrace myself in the natural. Oop. And that's Rudy's cameo. Welcome to What the Hell Is Next, the podcast for those of us who thought adulthood came with a manual. We're going to laugh, learn, cuss a little, pray a lot, and figure this thing out one real conversation at a time. I got no more time. Every month. Every time I sit in front of this camera, it's always something. Why? Okay. Hey y'all. Welcome back to What the Hell Is Next. Another episode. What are we going to talk about today? I don't know. Yes, I do. It's right here. I got it. So today we're going to talk about emotional maturity in relationships, period. I know when we talk about emotional maturity, we usually talk about dating or intimate relationships. But this month, we're going to just talk about just period. Are we grown or just grown looking? So, of course, it's always a story. I can recall several areas in my life where I was very emotionally immature. And it was coming out of young adulthood into adulthood for me, because that looks different for everybody. Just really trying to find my way. I had a conversation today actually about relationships and maturity as it relates to what we want, what we expect, with someone that's literally coming out of that young adult phase, really trying to balance and figure out what relationships period looks like for them going into being an adult. So one of the things that we kind of talked about was the fact that most of the things that we did when we were younger at home, trying to get your parents' attention or people pleasing, you know, trying to get the validation from your parents, we literally take that into our relationships, both intimately, business wise. I'm finding that out now. friendship, acquaintances. We take that into those relationships and then wonder why they don't work. I realized that I brought a lot of immature, I brought a lot of emotional immaturity into relationships when I got older because there was an expectation. I was a huge people pleaser. I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to be included, right? Didn't want to be left out because growing up, I wasn't really left out, but I grew up in a home or grew up in that generation where a child stays in a child's place. And you only speak when spoken to, and when grown folks talking, you go somewhere and sit down. And they don't do that too much no more. But I grew up then. But what I realized, it left me not being included, right? I had very close friends growing up, but there were a lot of things that I desired to do. And I also grew up in an era where dark skin wasn't fond. Like, people didn't like dark skinned people. It was all the light skinned people. They got all the good stuff and all the attention and validation, and we just got kind of kicked to the curb. So there was a lot of emotional stuff that happened. And then we're not going to talk about, like, in the home, there we can identify some emotional things that happened. Shout out to my mom and dad. They did the best they could with what they had and what they knew to do. I don't blame them or hold anything against them, because we did come out good. We came out healthy. We came out whole for the most part, loving all of the nurturing things. Could there have been some additional emotional support? Yes. But for the most part, my parents did the best that they could with what they had and what they were given as children and as adults. So what I realized was, going into adulthood, becoming intimate, finding those intimate relationships, or finding relationships with people and associates and friends, and what I wanted all of that to look like, I was very emotional immature, which led me to be emotional mixed matched, right? There wasn't a lot of harmony. Now I do have one of my closest friends who I went to kindergarten with. Shout out to Tammy and girl Tammy. We still talk, still fairly close. There was a family that lived across the street that I was very close with. But I can kind of recall a lot of times, 85% of the time, I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to be included. I wanted to hang out and do all the things. May not have been the most healthiest way to do it, but it was a very emotional mixed match relationships. And then dating or being intimate in those intimate relationships, it was very emotionally mixed match for me, because I was emotionally immature. One of the things I also realized is that like attract like, right? I was emotionally immature, so I attracted emotionally immature men or emotionally immature people. And it was just crazy, just a whole bunch of craziness in that. So today we're going to kind of talk about, are we grown or just grown looking? Emotional maturity. So we can define emotional maturity as self-regulated, accountable, communication, and understanding the conflict style. We're going to kind of touch on those. When I talk about self-regulation, now I can say that I'm very emotionally mature. Do I have a lot more to go? Absolutely. Because every new relationship or new encounter brings out something that I may not have discovered yet, or have experienced. So now I gotta re-regulate what that looks like. And I know in previous episodes we talked about doing an audit or an evaluation. So this is where that audit will come in for me. So what I've learned how to self-regulate in maintaining my emotional maturity is really deciding, is this something I feel like being bothered with? I mean, it's literally just that simple. I don't try to save everybody anymore. I don't try to fit in with it. I know everybody is not going to like me just because of who I am and who I become. I'm not called to everybody, and everybody don't respond to me. And I'm okay, because I'm not trying to save the world. I gave that cape up a long time ago. I'm not trying to help everybody. Am I helpful? Absolutely. But what I realize is that I can't out-help you. So if you don't want it, if you don't need it, I respect your decision and your will, and I'll let you have it. If you need anything from me, call me, send an email, put a message in a bottle. And that's actually a song. If you ain't know, put a message. Okay, anyway. It's actually called Send For Me. Google it. It's really a cute little song. But I learned from me to maintain my emotion maturity is to make sure I'm doing self-regulation. Will I give you the shirt off my back? Absolutely. Will I give you my last dollar? Absolutely. Will I do it for people pleasing or to be accepted or to be included? Absolutely not. I take my little 2-3 people that love me and just go on by my business, or I'll just stay in the house with Rudy and we good. I've learned to first be emotionally mature with myself before I can do it in other relationships. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. Accountability. I'm very accountable for the most part. Probably too accountable for myself, because I'll be the first one to be like, that was me, I jacked up, or I apologize. I don't apologize for what I said, but I may apologize for how I say it, because I can't come across a little crass. I can be a little hard sometimes, but that's also because I'm over 50, and when you over 50, let's talk about being over 50, okay? When you over 50 or 50 plus, when I tell you your patience is like thin, you have no patience and no time for foolishness, for low-level stuff. Just like, it's just crazy. And I don't want to be one of those old, ornery, cantankerous type women, right? I'm trying to fight it as much as possible. I probably can be that and be it very well. However, I'm really trying to fight it. So I do a lot of accountability as it relates to my part in the situation and the part that I played in the outcome. And I think that's really emotionally mature, especially nowadays with the whole world so sensitive. Everybody's in their feelings. I mean, and we're already driven by how we feel, right? If I didn't do my hair or, put on lip gloss, I wouldn't feel right or feel confident, right? So we're all driven by how we feel. But this world is so sensitive. I think social media plays a part in it. The pandemic played a huge part in it. We were isolated and in seclusion for the most part. Wasn't out social, or the things that we did social, so we were left at home, and it was just a whole mess, which causes us to be very, very emotionally driven. So I try to, for the most part, be very accountable for my part in things. I've learned to pause, let people know how I'm feeling. I try not to let people guess. If I ain't feeling it, I ain't feeling it now. 8 times out of 10, they don't believe me and they be trying to fix it, and that be pissing me off. But for the most part, I'm like, I got it. Just needed some time. Just leave me alone for a minute. Which leads us to communication. I am very big on communication. When I talk to people and they tell me how they feel about something or situation, the first thing I ask was, well, did you let them know? And they'll be like, oh no. Well, then you can't hold them accountable for their reaction or the way they respond if you ain't even tell them how you feel. Like, we're not mind readers. We don't, we shouldn't guess. Like, tell the people how you feel, right? Pausing plays a very, very big part in that. Pause, get your words together, tell the people how you feel. Let them know, hey, now it's not the time, or when you said that, it upset me. A lot of times I think, and this plays into our emotional immaturity, we're afraid of what the response is going to be. So what we do is we put ourselves back and suffer for the sake of others when they don't even know. Let them know, hey, when you said that, that get on my nerves. When we go out and you always picking up the phone, that irritates me. Let me know when it's phone time. Something. But being very, very, I'm going to mess this word all up. Communicative. I practiced. And just let people know, right? And then conflict style. I don't know if we've, I don't hear about conflict style often, but it's a thing. Conflict style is a thing. So let me look it up real quick. Hold on. Alright, so the styles are competing, win or lose, collaborating, win-win, compromising, split the difference, avoiding, no win, and accommodating, lose-win. So these are conflict styles. There are 5 methods for managing disagreements. So when we talk about emotional maturity in this sense, and we're talking about disagreements, how do I handle disagreements? Being emotionally mature. I am a very good judge of character. I have a high discernment. Not always off when it comes to people and their character. I am a very good judge of people. I study people, and so study their habits. I study, how they move, their response. I study, their consistency or lack thereof. And I really don't go by what people say, because talk is cheap, and people can say anything because it's just easy to do. So I'm an action-driven person. So I kind of watch people, especially those that I kind of am in a relationship with, whether it's intimate or not. And that usually shows. So my conflict style, I literally look at how they respond to conflict in their lives, and then kind of be accountable for my part if there's a disagreement, if that makes sense. I think that's safe for me because, again, I have a very, very low threshold of patience. And the older I get and the more that I'm by myself and the more that I'm finding myself and loving myself, the more I'm okay with it. Everybody else can kick rocks. However, I do know that there are some desires that I have in my heart, and I can't kick everybody to the rocks. So, I kind of wait on the perfect time to bring up a conflict. If it's a conflict, going back to the evaluation. Even if it's, just really, really determining for me if it's worth talking about. Now, if it's, I haven't really been in anything heavy in a long time. I don't do conflict. I don't hang around with people that are controversial. Most people I hang out with, I like the people that I hang out with. And I think they like me for the most part because they keep coming around. So we don't have a lot of conflict when it comes to that. Now, do we disagree? Absolutely. Do we disagree to argument? Not at all. And we respect each other's disagreement or what we don't agree upon, and then come to a happy medium where it's just be like, that's just Tonia, just whatever. She gonna do what she gonna do. It's pretty much what they end up saying about me. That's kind of bad now that I said it out loud. I don't know. I'm going to think about that. But as it relates to conflict styles or disagreements, I really think emotional maturity plays a key role on how you handle it. One of the things I do know is that some, if not most people, do not like conflict. They avoid conflict at all costs to a point where it's detrimental to them because they don't want to like engage. I believe me, she, her. I don't go by pronouns, but so don't. It's Tonia. It's just me. Don't. I think. Miss Rudy. I think conflict is healthy. Disagreements is healthy. Like, that's how you engage. That's how you learn. That's how you come to some truth, some accountability, like all the things that we said before. I just think it's a way to do it, right? And if you really care about the person, or if you both are having like this moment, if you want them around, if it matters, if it's worth it, just literally having that conversation and say, you know what, we really got to talk about this because it made me feel. When you did blah, 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 it made me feel. To just kind of have that open dialogue. Because I think most people don't even know that they've done anything. Right? And now you walking around mad and angry. And they don't know why you mad or angry. Because regardless of what people say, I don't care if you never say it out of your mouth, it shows in your actions. If you never say it out of your mouth. Well, they don't know because I ain't tell them no. But that wall you put up every time they come around is very loud. I show stuff on my face. I may not never say it. But when I get that person that look, I'm quite sure they know what I'm saying in my head. So where people may think because they don't say it, doesn't mean that it doesn't come out because they're holding it in. They're harboring whatever the disagreement or the conflict or whatever in without even talking to the person. Now, some stuff is just meant to be, right? So I personally think that having conversations that are not always favorable, see how I put them words? I changed the buzzwords, the trigger words, is very healthy. That is how you learn people. That is how you get to understand people and ultimately respect them. So yeah, emotional maturity for me is defined as self-regulation, accountability, communication, and understanding a conflict style or disagreements. So let's talk a little bit about red flags versus emotional incompatibility. Not all red flags are red flags. Most times, you all are just not compatible. Now, what does compatibility look? It depends on what you like. It depends on how you complement each other. Another thing I realized, we don't take time to learn people that we're in a relationship. We don't take that time for that dating phase, right? We just jump right in and then want to know why we trauma bonding, or why that person is acting right, or not, you done laid up with this person or whatever, and then you look over and be like, I really don't like when he wears orange. It's not a good color for him. It just wasn't compatible. Part of being emotionally mature is taking that time out to decide on if this is something you want to engage in, or if this something is just fun for the moment. Whatever it is, whatever floats your boat, no judgment. But everything ain't a red flag. It's just that you're not compatible, which is fine. Not all disconnects are toxic. Some are just unaligned. Y'all just not on the same page. So I remember having a relationship with a young man for several years. Didn't really date, but I realized that there were attributes about him that I really enjoyed. And for women, why answer this question for me? in the comments. Why does it have to be all or nothing? Why do they have to be the total package and bring everything to the table, or it's nothing at all? With this person, I enjoyed our conversation. I enjoyed the attention. I enjoyed all of that. But we were not compatible for a relationship, right? And we were like that for a couple of years, actually. And we would just go out and we would just have burgers and beer. And when we was at Burgers and Beer, we was all in. Like, we would close the place down, eating off each other's plate, like flirting, all the other things. But I realized that we were not emotionally compatible because there were still some things that he was dealing with. There were some things that I was dealing with. But I enjoyed the company. So one thing that I learned about it for myself, being emotionally mature, is that it does not have to be all or nothing. It just don't. He took me out. We went out for a couple of times. He didn't call the next day. I was fine because there was no expectation, because I knew what it was. I knew the enjoyment that I got, right? And I discovered in that part, or in that series of my life, is that I really grew up emotionally. Like, I literally didn't flop out if he didn't call. And we would go months without talking. And then I would be like, hey, I need burgers and beer. So I'll call him up, be like, burgers and beer? He'll be like, absolutely. And we'll have the same conversation or whatever. I used to call it my testosterone shots. When I needed male attention. And didn't have to sleep with him or didn't have to do anything. I kept all my clothes on. And it was absolutely amazing for 2 years, to a point where he didn't talk to me for a long time, and I didn't realize he was gone until he was gone. And I was like, I think he broke up with me, but that was just a side joke. But everything is not always a red flag. Most of it is just that you are not compatible, and you're not compatible emotionally. So taking that inventory and doing that checklist, like, what does that mean for you to be emotionally compatible with someone? So we went over a couple of things in this time. So are we grown or just grown looking? Can we show up grown? Or are we really grown? And my definition of grown here is, are we mature? You know, or are we still playing games? Are we still, clowning around? Like, I'm literally at a point. Just tell me what you want and let me decide on if I want to engage or not. I've been by myself for 10 years since my fiance passed. I'm good. Just, what is it? Is this all we doing? Then that's fine. If this all I just want to choose. I just want to make sure that I participate in whatever this is. And whatever this is going to be, just let me have a say. So, let's do some questions about people when you're in a relationship. Again, I talked about looking at on how they handle disappointment, not just with you, but just in their lives, period, right? That will kind of let you know about their emotional state, on how they handle things. Do you feel safe being honest around them? You got the lie? You ain't got the lie, Craig. You ain't got the lie. Do I feel safe being honest? For me, I'm honest. So when I say safe, that means they ain't gonna try to be waiting on me outside to beat me up or anything. So do I feel safe being honest? I've also learned, again, I talked about pausing and kind of evaluating. So I just don't I don't treat everybody the same. I treat them according to what they can handle from me. And that's been the safest place. So in that, I can be honest with each individual person, because I treat them according to their capacity of what they can handle with me. But that also comes with having a long relationship with them as well, right? Being engaged and participating in their lives as much as possible, and as much as time would allow and room permit. So Do you feel safe being honest? How do they handle disappointment? What have you observed? And how do they repair conflict? What have you observed? And also apply these questions to yourself when you're engaging with people, right? That will kind of gauge the level of your emotional maturity. The reality is, we all have some growing to do emotionally. Every experience brings out something new. Every experience we have with ourselves in our own situations bring out new emotions that we didn't know existed, or emotions that we thought we had dealt with already. So I think emotional maturity is a must for us to live out this life, especially with the condition and the temperature of the world today. We need each other like never before. We need to really stick together and really make this thing work. And I believe being emotionally mature will aid in that. And stop confusing chemistry with capacity. Those are two different things. I may not have chemistry with you, but I may have capacity for you. And then that puts you in a different bracket, right? That puts you on a different shelf. In my life, there are shelves, and everybody have their own shelf. Some people share a shelf, but this is how I categorize people within myself, so that I'll be able to handle them and be able to really regulate my emotional maturity. So that's it. If you have any comments, something you want me to talk about, feedback, don't forget to comment below, like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more of What the Hell is Next in our next episode. Thank you.